Greenwood is a sizable coastal town on the western shore of the United States, near several bustling cities yet still retaining a classic charm. Red brick buildings and rows of mansions stand side by side, reflecting a society with clear class distinctions. Among wealthy, powerful families, there are also many ordinary laborers. The town's main street is paved with stone, lined with ancient trees that provide cooling shade alongside quaint European-style cafes. Beneath the serene exterior of Greenwood, rumors abound of illicit activities lurking behind closed doors. The locals rarely mention it openly, but everyone has heard that somewhere in town exists a powerful family controlling certain illegal ventures, possibly even branching into legitimate businesses. Yet outwardly, Greenwood remains as calm as a mirror reflecting the golden sunset each evening. At the heart of Greenwood stands Blackwood High School, a campus drawing many children of affluent families. The main building is a blend of Gothic and modern architecture featuring spires and stained glass windows perched on a gently sloping hill. In front is a bronze statue of a historical scholar. Surrounding it is a perfectly manicured lawn. Inside, clusters of students chat casually or hurry to class. Equipped with state-of-the-art facilities, football stadiums, an indoor swimming pool, modern labs, and even on-campus dormitories, Blackwood has become the incubator for the next generation of privileged or ambitious youths. In Greenwood, the name Dominic King is whispered in hushed tones. Officially, Dominic is a successful entrepreneur, proprietor of a chain of upscale restaurants, and a man with considerable stakes in real estate. Yet few dare to say outright, Dominic King is, in fact, the infamous boss, controlling most of the organized crime along the West Coast. On the surface, he appears courteous, impeccably dressed in tailored black suits, his dark hair lightly streaked with silver, his deep-set eyes radiating authority. A faint scar runs from his cheekbone to his left jawline, a reminder of a tumultuous past. In the underworld, Dominic King's name is synonymous with ruthless retaliation against betrayal and strict control over security or protection rackets in the region. By Dominic's side is his wife, Olivia King, an African-American woman with a warm smile and large, soulful eyes. Olivia hails from a family of academics and used to be a university lecturer in sociology. She gives Dominic a more humane perspective, a different lens through which to view life. Their marriage at face value may seem like a stark contrast, an African-American intellectual and a white Italian-American crime figure, but their profound understanding and genuine love form a strong bond. Olivia fully comprehends who her husband really is, yet she accepts him, trusting that Dominic holds fast to his own code of honor, avoiding harm to the truly innocent. They have one 13-year-old daughter, Ariana King, often called Aria. She is strikingly mixed race with dark brown skin like her mother, black curly hair, and thoughtful bright eyes set in a graceful face. At school, she is soft-spoken, reserved, typically sitting at the back of the class, arms folded, either taking notes or sketching in her notebook. Though from a wealthy family, Aria never flaunts her status. She deliberately tries to blend in so no one pays her any undue attention. She fears that her father's dangerous reputation might ostracize her or create unwanted complications. Meanwhile, at Blackwood High, Bradley Stone is a male student who dominates nearly every aspect of school life. He is the son of Edgar Stone, the owner of a large chain of hotels and resorts across the state. Bradley has chestnut brown hair, green eyes, and is always seen wearing expensive sneakers and designer jackets. He's widely recognized for his cutting wit and bold confidence, one might say arrogance. He's the classic prince figure, showered with familial wealth and influence. Bradley not only boasts attractive looks and wealthy connections, but also commands a loyal circle of followers. They orbit around him, seeking favor for their own benefit. Together, they rule every corner of Blackwood, from the cafeteria and gym to social media networks. If Bradley hates someone, that person immediately faces intense pressure, ridicule, verbal harassment, and sometimes even physical violence. Teachers are partly intimidated by the Stone family's clout, and partly keen to avoid tarnishing the school's reputation. Consequently, most prefer to gloss over or lightly punish Bradley's misdeeds. To many, he appears untouchable. Aria King started attending Blackwood High at age 13. Shy and somewhat solitary, she soon caught the attention of Bradley Stone, a boy always on the lookout for an easy target. Initially, Bradley amused himself by making Aria uncomfortable, bumping her in the hallway, knocking her books off her desk, or spouting thinly veiled insults. Aria's response was simply to remain silent, pick up her things, and step aside. Her submission first made Bradley chuckle, but over time her unflappable calmness irked him. She showed neither fear nor tears, never reporting him to teachers. Instead, she met his gaze with a calm neutrality that unsettled him, as though she were looking at a puppet on a string. Bradley hadn't anticipated that a nobody like Aria could exhibit such poise. He wanted to break her composure, relishing the idea of turning her into a trembling victim begging for mercy, a move that would further solidify his dominance. Little did he know that Aria was Dominic King's only daughter, a man whose mere name sent tremors through the underground. Bradley's ignorant arrogance would ultimately plant the seeds of his own downfall. In the first weeks, Aria endured Bradley's harassment, shoves, elbow nudges, mocking remarks, without complaint. Sometimes he made jeering comments about her dark skin, throwing out borderline racist remarks that a few accomplices found amusing. Aria silently put up with it because she believed that confronting him would escalate matters. Moreover, her father had told her, "School is your domain. I don't want to intervene unless it's beyond your control. Stay safe." Dominic King was indeed watching from the shadows, ready to act if things went too far. Aria's stoic response, however, emboldened Bradley. Seeing that she neither cried nor tattled nor defended herself, he decided to up his game. His pranks grew more invasive, knocking over her lunch tray, blocking her path, tossing her belongings on the floor, even hurling slurs alluding to her race and supposed poverty. Most students were scared of Bradley, or were amused by the show, and only a few felt sorry for Aria but remained silent. Among the latter was Melissa Green, a timid classmate who felt uneasy about Aria's predicament but wasn't brave enough to help. Because physical bullying hadn't produced the desired reaction, Bradley conceived a wicked online prank. He secretly obtained a photo of Aria, taken surreptitiously on school grounds, and digitally distorted her face, elongating the eyes, twisting her smile into something grotesque. Then he slapped on the words "Black Psycho" in glaring red letters. He created an anonymous Instagram account and posted it, encouraging widespread sharing. Within hours, the doctored picture circulated among Blackwood's student chats. Hallway whispers multiplied, accompanied by snickers. Aria's phone lit up with numerous hateful or harassing messages from unknown numbers. Though deeply hurt, she responded by quietly turning off her phone and retreating to a remote corner near the school's sports field. She refused to give Bradley the satisfaction of seeing her break down. Yet right as Aria neared her breaking point, another force had begun to stir from the shadows. Her father, Dominic King. He had always placed discreet bodyguards around his daughter, keeping close watch on every unfolding event. Learning of the humiliating picture, Dominic immediately took action. That evening, Aria walked into the grand foyer of the King family mansion, a Mediterranean-style estate with whitewashed walls, red-tiled roofs, and spacious breezeways. She held her phone in her hand. Dominic's bodyguards, gathered near the living room, straightened up at her approach, aware she was the princess of their formidable boss. Aria showed her father the cruelly altered photo. Dominic offered no explanation, merely nodded once. Then he gave a simple order to his men. "Erase it. Shut it down." They scattered at once. Overnight, thanks to hacking, mass reporting, and anonymous threats, the posts vanished from social media. Bradley's account and those of his accomplices were deactivated. Everything disappeared as though it had never existed. The bullies were stunned, unable to fathom how their entire achievement had collapsed. That was Dominic's first warning. Afterwards, Dominic personally made a late-night phone call to Edgar Stone, Bradley's father. Edgar was Dominic's competitor in real estate, though they had maintained an icy peace for years. Hearing Dominic's voice so late at night, Edgar felt immediate dread, for he knew too well the rumors surrounding King. "Keep your son in line," Dominic said coldly, "or you know what happens." The next morning, Edgar Stone confronted Bradley in their home office, his face pale with worry. Have you messed with Dominic King's daughter? Bradley blinked, retorting, I only teased the girl. That Dominic can't really touch us. But as he noticed his father's fearful demeanor, something Edgar Stone had never shown, Bradley began to sense true danger. Edgar's voice shook. Stop your nonsense. If you provoke King, no amount of our money can save you. Despite his father's warning, Bradley remained skeptical. He dismissed Dominic King as another overblown businessman. He refused to apologize to Arya or show fear. Instead, he grew more resentful, accusing Arya of having hid behind her father to wipe his social media stunt. Fueled by anger, he resolved to test whether Dominic King truly had teeth. His chance arrived at a Saturday night birthday bash for Jason Clark, a wealthy schoolmate, held at the lavish Clark mansion with a DJ, booze, and a rowdy throng of privileged teens. Bradley showed up with a few of his friends, drinking clandestinely. As the party fizzled around 1:00 a.m., he staggered to the parking lot, slightly buzzed, heading for his father's gifted BMW. Suddenly, a black Cadillac Escalade pulled up, headlights glaring in his face. The car door opened and two large men in suits stepped out, their expressions impassive. One said curtly, "Get in." Bradley attempted a mocking retort, but upon glimpsing a pistol beneath a suit jacket, he froze. Everyone else had gone home. The lot was deserted. With no one to call for help, he was forced into the SUV. Inside sat Dominic King, wearing a dark suit and exuding a quiet menace. Under the dim street lamp, the faint scar on his jaw stood out. He slowly exhaled a puff of cigar smoke. "We need to talk, kid," he said, voice low as steel. The SUV drove off at a steady pace, leaving the Clark mansion for an isolated road. Inside, Dominic stared at Bradley, unblinking. He never raised his voice, but it was far more threatening than any shout. "You know why you're here?" he asked. Bradley's heart pounded. What do you want?" Dominic smirked. "I don't want anything from you. I want you to stay away from my daughter." Tension thickened the air. Bradley's heart hammered as he realized he might not walk away intact. Dominic continued. "Bradley Stone, you bullied my daughter in front of everyone, posted obscene pictures, spread rumors, turned her into a laughingstock. Did you really think there'd be no consequences?" Bradley tried to speak, but the men in the front seats cast him a cold glare, silencing him. Dominic flicked ash from his cigar, pulling out a gleaming pocket knife. He clicked it open, letting the blade catch the light, still eyeing Bradley. "You see," Dominic said calmly, "I'm patient, but one thing I never forgive." He leaned forward. "Is anyone who harms my family." Bradley felt his stomach drop. Dominic lightly pressed the knife edge to his own thumb as if testing sharpness. "Your father called me, begged me to overlook this, called you a stupid kid. But I don't believe in stupid innocence. I believe in consequences." Bradley trembled. Dominic stared at him for a long beat, then put the knife away. "Listen closely. You disappear from my daughter's life. Don't ever look at her again. If I even hear your name tied to hers, I won't call your father. I won't warn you again. I will come for you." A chilling smile. "And next time you won't be smiling." He didn't have to say more. For the first time, Bradley Stone knew true fear. When the SUV stopped at the Stone Mansion gates, Bradley stumbled out, his legs shaking. He couldn't sleep that night, convinced Dominic King might appear at any moment to end him. His false sense of invincibility crumbled. Bradley was too terrified to show his face at Blackwood High the next day. He simply vanished. His classmates were puzzled not to see him swaggering about the halls. Even his inner circle disappeared. Initially, some assumed he was sick or skipping class, but rumors quickly spread. Someone said they'd seen a black SUV pick him up. Others speculated he was too frightened to leave his bedroom. Some whispered that his family planned to send him overseas. All knew the reason had to be serious. For Arya, the sudden disappearance of Bradley brought unexpected relief and anxiety. She knew her father must have intervened but had no idea how. She felt a bitter comfort, realizing Bradley was gone. Yet she was torn. Did Dominic do something terrible? Was she indirectly responsible for someone's demise? Arya didn't condone violence, but she couldn't deny a sense of relief knowing that relentless bullying had ended. Still, she wrestled with guilt and kept wondering if her father had harmed Bradley. She recalled Dominic's guidance. "If it gets worse, tell me," and suspected he had used intimidation. Though relieved, she worried about the moral implications. Over several nights, Arya lay awake, wrestling with conflicting emotions. She understood that in Dominic King's world, justice was often meted out in a dark and ruthless manner. With Bradley gone, Blackwood students reacted in diverse ways. Melissa Green. Having witnessed Arya being bullied, she mustered the courage to approach Arya in the library, stammering out an apology for not defending her. Arya gave her a gentle smile. "I don't blame you. Sometimes staying silent is how people protect themselves." From that moment they grew closer, although not instantly best friends. Still, Arya was no longer entirely alone. Jessica Parker, a school diva rumored to be Bradley's sometime girlfriend. Jessica used to sneer whenever Arya was mocked. Now, with Bradley's downfall, she lost her protection. Feeling humiliated and frightened of retribution, she avoided Arya's eyes. Arya realized how opportunistic Jessica had always been, using Bradley's status to appear above everyone else. Teachers. Some learned Arya was Dominic King's daughter and now treated her with extra caution, occasionally showing kind concern. Arya sometimes felt smothered by their sudden attentiveness, yet also knew it meant no one would ignore her pleas for help again. One Saturday night, Dominic King sat in his marble-floored study with his loyal men while swirling a glass of whiskey. On the table lay files of his real estate projects and photographs of Stone family activities. He asked one of his guards, "Any news about the Stones?" The guard replied, "They're selling their assets. Looks like they're moving out of Greenwood next week." Dominic nodded. "Good. Keep watch. If they behave, leave them alone." For him, the purge was effectively over. As his guard slipped out, Olivia King entered. She approached Dominic gently. "Are you all right?" He sipped his drink. "I don't regret warning that punk. I only regret that Arya is caught in my shadow." Olivia rested a hand on his shoulder. "Arya's a strong girl. She has her own pride. But you should talk to her so she knows you do this out of love, not out of sheer violence." Dominic exhaled heavily. He knew his code of retribution might distance Arya, but he would never let anyone, even a child, humiliate his daughter. With Bradley suddenly gone, a new figure stepped into the story. Detective Samuel Lang of the Greenwood Police Department. Tall and lean, with white-rimmed glasses and a quietly shrewd demeanor, Lang had a reputation for swimming against the current in a department often reluctant to stir up trouble. He suspected that a powerful criminal family operated in Greenwood, the King family. Yet no one had dared challenge Dominic King due to lack of proof. Lang caught wind of Bradley Stone's abrupt disappearance. Though it wasn't an actual missing persons case, Bradley's father had simply pulled him out of school, Lang sensed there was more. He visited Blackwood High to gather info, but teachers and students mostly clammed up. Even Melissa Green, though sympathetic, was too frightened to say much. Arya remained tight-lipped. Still, Lang stayed persistent. Sooner or later, he told himself, the King family will slip. His investigation introduced a new source of tension. Would Dominic King's criminal empire remain concealed? And how would Arya, unwittingly at the center of it all, be affected by the scrutiny? Days passed quietly at Blackwood, and Arya regained a sense of normalcy. She went to class, joined the school's art club, talked with Melissa, helped her mother cook at home. She still felt uneasy whenever she remembered Bradley, but seeing no sign of him, she tried to believe the worst was over. One evening, Dominic summoned Arya to the living room. She sat across from him, a little anxious, but with steadfast eyes. Dominic asked, "Anything you want to tell me?" Arya hesitated, then spoke. "Did you deal with Bradley?" Dominic nodded. "I simply showed him that harming my daughter is suicidal. He won't bother you again." Arya looked down. "Thanks for protecting me. But you didn't hurt him, did you?" Dominic's brow furrowed slightly, then he patted her arm. "I'm not going to kill a child. I only warned him. You're safe now. Arya exhaled with relief. Dominic regarded his daughter, realizing she was more self-assured than he had thought. Her eyes held many unspoken emotions. Dominic added, half confiding, I know you dislike violence, but in my world, sometimes strength is the only way to protect what we hold dear. If you ever feel endangered, you come to me. I won't hesitate to act. Tears welled in Arya's eyes as she embraced her father. Despite how terrifying he was to others, she felt the warmth of his unwavering love. Their bond was, at that moment, stronger than ever. A week later, just as the Stones prepared to leave town, the Greenwood Police Department sent Detective Lang to question Dominic King about Bradley Stone's vanishing. Although Bradley wasn't truly missing, the abrupt move had raised eyebrows. Lang arrived at the King mansion unannounced. Dominic met him at the gate, unflinching and composed. Lang. Good day, Mr. King. I'm Detective Samuel Lang. I'd like to ask a few questions regarding Bradley Stone. Dominic, with polite cordiality. I'm more than willing, as long as you have a proper warrant or legitimate reason. Lang. I don't have a warrant, only a request for cooperation. There are rumors the Stone family left because of threats. Dominic, shrugging casually. Officer, I'm merely a businessman. The Stone family competes with me in real estate. Perhaps they decided to relocate, no threats needed. Why would I bother threatening them? Lang eyes Dominic intently. Some at Blackwood High mentioned your daughter, Arya King, was bullied by Bradley Stone. Might that be related? Dominic, expression turning a shade colder. If Stone bullied my daughter, that's a matter for the school. I do not interfere. You should speak to the principal or teachers. Lang, very well, thank you. I trust we can cooperate if something else turns up. He left, sensing Dominic would say no more. Dominic maintained a polite smile, but his gaze had darkened. After Lang's departure, Dominic's brow furrowed. He's sniffing around, he murmured. A bodyguard asked, Should we take care of him? Dominic shook his head. No, he's just a cop with no evidence. Let him squirm. Still, he felt watchful. Any deeper police interest could spell trouble, especially if it touched Arya. Olivia perceived her husband's distress. She knew their family might come under greater police surveillance, which could harm Arya. She gently reassured him. Act cautiously. We can't have Arya living in constant fear of police raids. I know you'll protect her at all costs, but maybe there's a less heavy-handed approach. Dominic sighed. He loved his wife, but knew that in the underworld, being too soft was fatal. Even so, he promised Olivia, I will be careful, and I'll keep Arya safe. As Blackwood settled into relative peace, Arya formed a tentative friendship with Melissa Green. They discovered a shared love for drawing and the arts. After class, they'd meet at the library, swapping sketches. Arya gravitated toward landscapes, buildings, and nature scenes, while Melissa specialized in portraits. Through these casual hangouts, Arya gradually opened up. She confided to Melissa that she deeply admired her mother, an educated African-American woman, and dreamed of becoming a painter or designer one day, forging her own path away from her father's violent world. Melissa was supportive. She invited Arya to join the art club. Nervous about attracting attention, Arya hesitated but eventually agreed. It was a significant step, asserting her independence, forging an identity distinct from her family's secrets. Meanwhile, her academic performance improved. Her math and biology teachers praised her progress. With Bradley gone, Arya seemed to be walking toward a brighter horizon. One afternoon, Arya and Melissa attended an art exhibition at Greenwood's Cultural Center. They wandered among the paintings, discussing and snapping photos. As they were leaving, Arya caught sight of Bradley Stone in a distant corner. He wore a simple outfit, a cap pulled low, and looked haggard. Arya froze, her heart pounding. Bradley stared back, eyes flaring with anger, then turned abruptly and disappeared. Melissa gasped, He's back? Shaken, Arya gripped Melissa's hand. Don't be scared. Maybe he's just visiting. Should I tell my father, or... She trailed off, worried. She knew telling Dominic might spark a major confrontation. She wondered if Bradley had returned for revenge. Arya dreaded fueling another spiral of violence. In truth, Bradley had been sent away to live with an aunt in another state. But he snuck back into Greenwood, fueled by a desperate desire to make Arya pay for what he believed was the ruin of his life, losing his school, reputation, friends, even his father's trust. His twisted mind convinced him that Arya set him up, prompting Dominic King's threats. Now, he wanted to flip the script. And to do that, he needed an ally capable of standing against Dominic King. He found that ally in Detective Lang. During a private meeting, Bradley portrayed himself as the victim of Dominic King, describing how King had kidnapped and threatened him at gunpoint. He offered details about the men, the car, even King's knife. While lacking hard evidence, Bradley fanned Lang's suspicions about Dominic. Lang pressed him. "You must provide solid evidence, recordings, videos, or at least a witness who will testify in court. Then we can arrest Dominic." Bradley, bitter, said, "No one will testify. They're scared." Lang replied, "Then gather the proof yourself. Let me know when you have it." A dark glint appeared in Bradley's eye. He had a plan. Arya's anxiety soared after seeing Bradley at the art center. She feared he might bully her again, or worse. She lost sleep, jumping at every unexpected sound. She worried for Melissa's safety, that Bradley might target her friends, or ambush them. Yet Arya was just as afraid to confide in her father, knowing it might prompt a lethal clash. She agonized over how to keep the peace without unleashing another wave of violence. At school, no one else saw Bradley. Yet his specter loomed in Arya's mind. Day by day, she tried to keep her routine, attending the art club, studying, helping her mom, while carrying constant dread. She did not tell Dominic, trying to protect him from further confrontation. For his part, Bradley secretly trailed Arya. He took pictures of her comings and goings, observed which cars picked her up. He even spied on the King mansion from afar, noting who visited Dominic, hoping to gather proof of King's criminal dealings. Bradley believed that if he turned over enough evidence to the authorities, they would arrest Dominic King, removing Arya's shield. Then Bradley could exact revenge at will. He was painfully aware of the danger. If Dominic discovered his stalking, Bradley's life would be forfeit. Yet hatred overrode his fear, driving him forward. Late one afternoon, Arya took a shortcut home through a deserted lane near an old warehouse behind the town stadium. She wanted to hurry so she wouldn't be late for the art club. Suddenly, Bradley Stone emerged from behind the decrepit structure. Arya's heart leapt. She stepped back. Bradley's face was twisted with hate. "Still think your family's so powerful, huh?" he sneered. Arya steadied her voice. "Bradley, I don't want trouble. You left. Why come back?" He gave a harsh laugh. "Your father and you destroyed my life. Now I want it back." Arya felt a jolt of terror but forced herself to remain calm. "You took it from yourself," she said quietly. "You bullied me." But he lunged, grabbed her collar, and shoved her against the wall. For a split second, Arya realized Bradley was losing control. He might do anything. She mustered her strength, pushed him away, and shouted, "Get off me!" A voice rang out. "Arya, are you okay?" Melissa Green had stumbled onto the scene. Trembling, she yelled at Bradley, "Leave her alone!" Bradley turned, rage filling his eyes. But before he could retaliate, a car screeched to a halt outside. Two men in suits jumped out and seized Bradley. Then Dominic King himself emerged, dark eyes blazing. Dominic had received a tip from one of his men, who happened to spot Bradley skulking near the warehouse. Fearing for Arya, he rushed over. Seeing Bradley physically assaulting his daughter ignited Dominic's fury. His voice was low and dangerous. "Let him go. I'll deal with him." The bodyguards released their grip and Bradley collapsed onto the dusty floor, gasping for air. Dominic strode closer, drawing a handgun from his belt and aiming it at Bradley's head. Both Arya and Melissa froze in horror. Arya screamed, "Dad, no!" Dominic's eyes burned, finger tightening on the trigger. Bradley let out a strangled gasp, unable to speak, sweat pouring down his face. The silence crackled with lethal tension. Would Dominic pull the trigger? In that perilous second, Arya flung herself forward, grabbing her father's arm. "Stop. Please, don't kill him. I can't bear to see you become a murderer." Dominic's arm quivered. He remained enraged, but the sight of his trembling daughter, eyes full of tears, broke through his fury. He growled through clenched teeth. "He attacked you. Don't you want him dead?" Arya wept. "I don't want more hatred. Please, end this. For me?" A few tense beats passed. Then Dominic slowly lowered the gun and nodded for his men to back off. He glowered at Bradley, voice dangerously calm. "Get out of my sight, if you so much as breathe near my daughter again." He let the words hang. The look in Dominic's eyes was cold enough to chill the blood. Bradley scrambled to his feet and fled. Once Bradley was gone, Arya felt her heart pounding uncontrollably, her legs like jelly. Dominic approached, checking for injuries. She'd sustained minor scrapes and bruises. Melissa, eyes brimming with tears, was too shocked to speak. Dominic signaled for his guards. "Take the girls home. No more shortcuts." He turned away with a mixture of sorrow and anger. While he respected Arya's plea for mercy, his own rage still simmered. Having narrowly escaped a bullet, Bradley now bore a new level of terror. Yet fear only reinforced his resolve to bring Dominic down. This time, he had evidence. A faint scratch on his temple from the gun's barrel, and a secret audio recording on his phone capturing some of Dominic's threatening words amid background commotion. Though it was muffled with many ambient noises, Dominic's voice was distinguishable. Bradley raced to the station to meet Detective Lang, sharing the recording and claiming that Dominic King had held him at gunpoint. Lang examined the file, recognized Dominic's voice, and promptly opened an investigation for attempted murder threats. Days later, while Dominic kept Arya home from school to ensure her safety, a police team led by Detective Lang raided the King mansion with a search warrant. Dominic didn't appear surprised. He met them calmly at the gate, wearing his usual immaculate suit. Lang declared, "We have evidence you threatened Bradley Stone with a firearm. We request your cooperation." Dominic gave a thin smile. "By all means, search away, but I doubt you'll find what you're looking for." The police combed through the mansion, searching for hidden weapons or incriminating documents, but Dominic, having anticipated a crackdown, kept everything illicit off-site. They turned up only a few registered guns, perfectly legal. No incriminating documents were found. Frustrated, Lang had no grounds to arrest Dominic for anything beyond questioning. Nevertheless, he detained Dominic for 48 hours to interrogate him, with Arya looking on in tears as her father was handcuffed and taken away. Arya was devastated seeing her father taken by the police. She felt torn. If she hadn't stopped him from shooting Bradley, the boy wouldn't have run to the cops. But murder would have been even worse. She told herself that nonviolence was the right choice. Olivia hugged her, whispering, "He'll be fine. He has a top lawyer, and there is no direct evidence. This isn't your fault, Arya." At the station, Detective Lang pressed Dominic. "You aimed a gun at Bradley Stone. Why? Did you kidnap him that night? Are you behind any organized crime? Speak." But Dominic remained calm, smirking coldly. "I have a legal gun. If the kid cornered my daughter, I might have shown it. Where's the bullet? Where's any real footage? This is groundless, Detective." Dominic's lawyer, Robert Hall, interjected. "My client exercises his right to remain silent. Your evidence is inconclusive. The audio recording is noisy, does not capture a gunshot, nor does it clearly show a threat. You have no basis to press charges." Lang could only grit his teeth. Indeed, the recording was too vague. Bradley had no serious injury and no video existed. Eventually, the police had to release Dominic after 2 days. Bradley raged when he saw Dominic walk out of the station free. He yelled at Lang, "You promised to put him behind bars." Lang sighed. "I tried. The system demands solid, indisputable evidence. That tape wasn't enough. If you have more, bring it. Otherwise, we can't hold him." Bradley felt utterly defeated. realizing Dominic King stood largely beyond the reach of the law. In a moment of despair, Bradley confronted his own turmoil. He hated Dominic, hated Arya, but was exhausted from running, spying, and scheming. Sitting alone in a dingy cafe on Greenwood's outskirts, he sipped water and reflected on his earlier life at Blackwood, when he was popular, unstoppable, worshipped by hangers-on. Now he was an outcast, forced to lurk in shadows. Overwhelmed by regret, he realized his spiral started with his own bullying. Dominic King's lethal response was brutal, but the initial cause was Bradley's arrogance. Shame and sadness welled up, and for the first time in years, Bradley Stone cried. Meanwhile, Arya realized that hatred only breeds more hatred. She asked her mother to contact lawyer Robert Hall about negotiating a compromise so Bradley would back off. Arya loathed the thought of her father being prosecuted, yet she also hated seeing him revert to violence. Dominic objected at first, but Arya insisted, "Dad, let it end. He's learned his lesson. I believe he won't come back if you give him a safe exit." In the end, Dominic relented. He told Robert Hall to send a message to the Stone family. If Bradley withdraws all charges and never mentions this ordeal again, the King family will not pursue or threaten him. The Stones are free to conduct business if they choose. An unspoken truce. For Bradley and Edgar Stone, nearing financial ruin after multiple failed projects, accepting was the only rational option. Bradley, aware he could be killed if he persisted, finally agreed to the deal. In a quiet corner of the Greenwood Mall parking lot on a sunny day, Bradley and Arya stood a few yards apart. Arya was accompanied by her mother, Olivia, while Bradley came alone. An awkward silence. Then Bradley quietly said, I'm sorry for everything I did to you and your family." Arya nodded slightly. "I'm sorry too if you felt forced to leave school. I never wanted things to get so ugly." Bradley exhaled, eyes downcast. "I'll drop the charges. I'll never bother you or your father again." Arya smiled softly, relieved. At last the cycle of violence seemed to be broken. Olivia regarded the two teenagers with sympathy. She knew Dominic was waiting nearby in a car, ready to intervene. Yet it appeared Bradley was truly done. He turned away, unable to look Arya in the eye any longer. For the first time he felt genuine shame. Following the truce, Bradley left Greenwood for another state, attempting a fresh start. He kept quiet, trying to fit into a new school. Sometimes he had nightmares of Dominic pointing a gun at him. He woke up drenched in sweat, repeatedly reminding himself, never again use violence or power to crush others. Perhaps in time, Bradley Stone might transform into a more decent person, shaped by his harrowing experiences. At Blackwood High, life carried on without Bradley. His former cronies fell silent, wary of crossing Arya, now known to be Dominic King's daughter. Nonetheless, Arya no longer feared stares or whispers. She went about her daily routine, attending the art club with Melissa, planning an end-of-year school art exhibition. Teachers and students alike seemed to breathe easier without Bradley's looming presence. Arya immersed herself in her art, finding it a sanctuary for her dreams and emotions. She created a piece depicting a phoenix rising from crimson flames, symbolizing rebirth after adversity. When it was displayed in the school's main foyer, many were impressed. Teachers commended her talent, and Melissa proudly said, "Arya, you're amazing. I'm so glad we're friends." That evening, Dominic visited Arya in her room. She was tidying her easel, preparing for her next project. He sat on the bed's edge, quietly asking, "Are you all right, Princess?" She nodded, smiling. "Yes, Dad. Are you all right?" Dominic looked pensive. "I'm all right. I just want you to know. You're the most important thing in my life, and I'll do anything to keep you safe." Arya replied with emotion in her voice. "I know, Dad, but I also need to stand on my own. I can't always hide behind your power. I want to shape my own future, maybe as an artist." Dominic gave a gentle laugh. "You do that. I'll support you. And I'll learn to hold back." Father and daughter embraced, sealing a renewed closeness. As for Detective Lang, he still lacked proof to convict Dominic King. With no charges sticking, he had to drop the matter. But he wasn't giving up entirely on exposing Dominic's underworld. A thick file on the King family lay on Lang's desk, waiting for that one slip. Would it ever come? The story remains unresolved, leaving open the possibility of future conflict. Though the story involves threats, violence, and blackmail, it underscores hopeful messages. Family love can drive people to extreme actions, but that same love can also restrain violence when it truly matters. A school environment relies on unity and protection. Bullies thrive on fear and silence. People can change, sometimes only after a painful lesson. Bradley ultimately recognized his wrongdoing, albeit belatedly. True strength isn't just about muscle or intimidation. Real power is rooted in self-respect, refusing to let anyone define your worth, and maintaining compassion when possible. Time passed, and Greenwood returned to its peaceful facade. Newcomers praised the historic charm of its streets. At Blackwood High, Aria King continued her journey, honing her art skills, nurturing her dream. Dominic King went on overseeing his empire, but perhaps with a measured approach to maintaining peace. Detective Lang, still vigilant, waited for the day he could bring King's crimes to light. Bradley Stone, far away, might change for the better or might not. No one knew. Our narrative closes with a glimmer of hope. Real power isn't about shouting the loudest or wielding the biggest threat. It's about having the courage to be true to ourselves, protect those we love, and reject attempts to destroy our spirit. Aria proved that by standing firm, refusing to be broken, and embracing her passion, she could weather any storm.